I'm going to show you how as a trader you can make thousands and thousands from your own losses. Now, when you think about losses, you're traditionally thinking about you losing a lump sum of money. Now, while this may be true in some scenarios, there can be other types of losses. There can be losses such as, perceived losses in a sense of, you've placed a trade and it's gone into a slight loss, or maybe it's gone into a slight profit. Maybe you close your profits early and then it goes into a profit. And you've missed out on making thousands of pounds or thousands of dollars from that one trade. That is perceived as a loss in your brain. So what happens is that we can emotionally react to these situations, and that can then cause a domino effect of decisions that lead to a blown account, unfortunately, such as overtrading, revenge trading, over risking, whatever it may be, because you're trying to overcompensate for the fact that you did not make the money that you were supposed to from a certain trade. So what I've realized is that in recent political climates, with Trump in office and he's making loads of decisions that's radical, there's a lot of market fluctuations, there's a lot of volatility. So what I found with my particular strategy is that there's been a lot more scenarios of having those perceived losses where, I have a profitable trade, I take my partial profits. Now with my particular approach, I like to move my stop loss into break even once I start making a certain amount of profits. But what I've realized is that now I can't do that as much, because when I typically do that, my stop loss gets hit and then it moves into a profit, which happened to me today, right? So today I publicly posted a trade, which went up to 200, I think it went up to a maximum of about $400 in profit before changing direction. I took profits when it was at $248 profits. So that was just a partial profit. And then it started to proceed to go down a little bit more, and then it changed direction. Now, as it changed direction, so as you can see here on this funded challenge, it's up $248 for the day. And this is the analysis, right? The analysis is phenomenal, right? There's nothing wrong with it. So you can see I took my partial profits down here. It started to accumulate a little bit. It formed some equal lows here, which is great. It just means that price may potentially target that at some point. And then it went back up into what we know as an order block, or in this scenario, it was a breaker block. And it decided to change direction from there, right? So I already, by this point, I had moved my stop loss from where it is here to break even here. Right, so when it was down here, I moved my stop loss to break even. So that is supposed to protect my position from incurring any more losses than it needs to. But in this scenario, price hadn't actually done the thing that I look for now to help me to understand whether it's ready to move to, if it's actually ready for me to move my stop to break even or not. And I'm going to give it to you guys, because I failed to look at that at that point in time and it stung me. So I hope that you guys can learn from my loss in this instance. So what I've realized is that when it comes to trades that are profitable, that's winning, if part of your strategy is to move your stop loss to break even, once you get to a certain point of profitability, I want you guys to start shifting that thought process and start thinking about what is the market's actually telling me. Because at this point of time, I believe there's a high impact news event that was released as well. It's Friday, 16th of May. So US dollar had some high impact news events that was being released at 3 p.m. I believe. And that's when price jumped upwards to my stop loss at break even and then pushed down. That was actually an opportunity for me to actually catch a re-entry based on my strategy. But I was currently driving to online. But the problem is though, is I wasn't present to do that. So what I should have done is I really and truly, because I knew that I would have been away from the charts, first and foremost, I should have kept my stop loss wider, simply because of the fact that I can't monitor it. 2, I also should have put myself in position where I realized that actually, before I move my stop loss to break even, let me assess the overall market structure. Now, market structure is a basic that a lot of people overlook, right? You kind of just brush it to the side, but it's very important to understand market structure, right? Because with market structure, you'll know that if you see price having a certain, like this, for example, where it's consolidated, it's moving sideways, and it touches the low here, but hasn't exactly broken below this low yet. Price breaking below this low is what's going to help signify to us that price is actually ready to continue moving lower. But typically before it moves lower, it will return back into where it just came from and then start pushing down lower from there. So you can see here, it had a break there, push down, return back up, then drop down, right? So we took our partial profits after it had just broken the market structure's lows. This should have been indication that, okay, price is likely to return back up here or return back anywhere around this region. As long as it stays below this point right here, this high right here, we are all good. We're still valid to continue going low. So if you understand that, then now it's not a situation where we're considering moving our stop loss to break even here. We have to first and foremost wait for price to break and close below this point here before doing so, and then return back in and then have its final push, right? So you can see here, if we had taken the time to move our stop loss to break even after price had broken below this low here, any time between here and here, between this lower low and this lower high, we would have been okay to move our stop loss to break even. But any time before that, it was in a danger zone because price still hadn't yet broken below these lows yet to indicate that it wants to continue going lower. So just by changing that approach now, do you see how you taking the time out to have a trade, and whether it wins or whether it loses, you actually observe what has happened. You think about, what mistake did I personally make? If there wasn't a mistake that you made with your execution, maybe it was your analysis. If it wasn't your analysis, maybe it was your psychology. If it wasn't your psychology, maybe it genuinely was just a 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 5 positions that you take that genuinely are losers, which can happen, by the way. Sometimes you might follow everything correctly and you still have a losing trade. That's perfectly fine and that's perfectly normal. But one thing you should want to get into the practice of doing is getting used to actually journaling down your trades, reflecting on what just happened, and then putting in the following adaptations based upon what you've noticed. Because I've now seen that, again, now that's reminded me of the fact that, okay, this is a change that I really do need to implement now. I need to make sure I'm following it consistently, not just when I feel like it, because that's how I'm trading right now, right? I need to trade as if I'm like, this is part of the strategy now, right? Because I'm still kind of leaning into the old processes and old habits that I had, but that's not going to work in this current market environment. I need to adapt to that. Otherwise, I'm not going to see that growth I'm looking for, right? And you're doing the same thing. A lot of the time, you're trading and not listening to your losses. Listen to your losses and you'll grow more profitable. Like I said, if your goal is to be a consistently profitable trader this year, then you need to make sure that you follow this account, because I'm going to be dropping some crazy gems over the course of this year.